So as you might have guessed, I've been playing more Kerbal Space Program. This is an SR-71 I made. It has Jeb and Bill on board. It is very simple, plain. It's not really the SR-71, but it was fun to make anyhow. I'm thinking about trying to take off with it again, even though the front landing gear was destroyed by overstress on landing, just because why not? It sounds like a fun idea to do. It's not going to go well. I'm also going to try to dodge the trees, even though they're non-physical, just because I think that would be fun to do. And I do remember, I do have a mod on here that does change the way damage is handled, so it might actually be possible to take off with this without destroying something, because the damage, you see this little damage percent thing here, there is a... Oh! Yes! Things don't just immediately explode upon impact, they actually have to hit at a higher velocity or higher angle relative to the surface that they're impacting. You can also see where we are on the globe. Yes, there are a lot of things flying around. This video is going to be basically a collection of me showing you the things that I have been working on. But first, let's go ahead and turn around here, and we're going to go ahead and attempt to land this thing again. Which is not going to go terribly well, I'm sure, but we're going to try it anyhow. I'm going to go ahead and deploy the gear, even though they won't be of very much help, because what they will do is they will hold the nose up for just a little bit of time after touchdown, hopefully, before succumbing to too much, well, not having enough lift at the front in front of the center of mass. Remember, the wheels are behind the center of mass, but there's nothing up front. You can see these are actually the medium landing gears that are down here, and there is no front landing gear, of course. And we're getting pretty low. Turn on the lights just to try and see a little bit better, although it's not really helping that much, it looks like. And I'm not quite sure what the lowest speed this thing can fly at is, but it's pretty low. So I'm basically just going to try to hover this over the ground as best I can for a little while, and then once I finally have to touch down, then I'm going to try to hold the nose up for as long as I can. So I'm going to go ahead and... Oh! Well, I tried to hold the nose up, but I actually couldn't, and as you can see, we are just fine. And actually no damage still. That's actually quite amazing. That should have broke, in my opinion, but I guess this thing is more sturdy than I thought. I might have to do something to make things more breakable. And for a brief preview of all the other craziness that's happening, here's just a random look at what's on here. I'm going to make the debris disappear from that list, though. And, oh dear, the list has now broken. So this design was created by someone else, and I decided, let's go ahead and, actually, oh, I can't. I was hoping I could somehow hit space and activate the engines that way, even though this was flown over to where we are right now. It's a very, very heavy craft, and if I go over here to the fuel tab, you'll see that it has a lot of fuel on board, which obviously is why it's called a heavy fueler. And you can see there's a lot of stuff around in various places. But the heavy fueler actually takes off quite easily. We do have a little bit of a downslope here that's a little bit bouncy as well. Fortunately, these landing gear are very heavy and heavy enough to take the extra stresses. And the downhill slope actually helped us get airborne way earlier than we should have been able to, just because the ground is still going down, and now we are going up. Yeah, so we got a big old Mark III liquid fuel fuselage. These things are freaking heavy. I never realized just how heavy they were until I started trying to make my own thing. And then, you can see they've put in an adapter. So it just barely fits in and has the max amount of liquid fuel you could put in there. No oxidizer, of course, because that would be a waste. This is just a fueler. And it's a really unique design. I like the way it's put together. And it flies quite well and quite stably. Oh yeah, so you can see a little bit of the adapters back there, holding everything together. Hopefully I pull out of this dive in time, though to be honest, yeah, I'm going to. For a moment there I wasn't quite so sure. I am going to throttle her down to do a landing though. Oops, I didn't hit the landing gear hard enough. Alright. Now this time I'm going to be significantly less gentle with her landing than I was with the SR-71. Oop. Going through a tree. Oof. Wow. I was not expecting... Huh. Well, now you see that the landing gear aren't actually attached to what they appear to be attached to. I always dislike when you have floating parts, although I understand sometimes it's necessary to get a design to work. That sucks. So this version of the SR-71 that I designed, as you can see, is parked just just off of the runway, and has an I cannot speak today, an air brake installed, which obviously is helpful for slowing down to land, because it turns out it takes a while to slow down when you're going as fast as these things go. This is the KX-38, or at least a version of it that barely landed, out of all the stuff that I have going around. Apparently I had one of these crash here. Someone made an X-Wing that is surprisingly good, and I didn't actually break it on landing it, which is pretty cool. I've also been playing around with making transport aircraft. Does this have... how many crew are in here? Oh, that one's empty. Okay, I think this one is all empty. This is probably one of my prototype versions. Let me see if I can change the name to show you what's the... where is the thing? Oh, rename this. Yeah, PX23R. Actually, this would be one of the last iterations of the design to work. To actually work. This would be the last iteration because it actually works. Excuse me. And yeah, it's a basic transport aircraft. I actually have 3 or 4 versions of this. Actually, I have, well, 3 or 4 final versions and a couple of other versions working on it. I'm basically just going through and cleaning up after myself right now. And looks like I crashed another aircraft over here. That's still bouncing around. And, oh my gosh, this was an attempt at a plane that is fully robotic and unfolds itself. And as you can see, we got very far off the runway, and that's about it. And some other pieces of debris, of course. This is actually a pretty neat little thing that I started on. It's not done yet. Has some... well, basically this is a landing craft. This is a tiny, tiny little shuttle, obviously. It actually has... was it Action Group 1? 2? Nope. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6... huh. One of those did it. Was it 0? Ah, it's 0. So 0 moves these engines back in... moves these engines back into place for optimal firing, and then, you know, moves them back in. And I just noticed they clipped through slightly, and that makes me mad because I hate the clipping. Like, see, I keep trying to explain this and no one ever gets exactly what I mean, but see, I don't like clipping when, you know, something functionally obviously is moving out of place, or certain kinds of clipping that look really ugly. But obviously I'm okay with clipping the engine into the side of the craft to make this fit in here, although obviously it doesn't fit in there as intended now, which really sucks. But this little craft can actually come to a landing on its own quite easily, despite the fact that it is very, very tiny. Obviously it has a really bad glide slope. Another version of the KR-71. Does this one have the cargo bay? No. Oh, yes, it does. I forget if all versions have that now, or if it's just the one. But yes, I decided to put a cargo bay on the front, I believe to balance the way it fits. Also, you'll notice there are 2 small landing gear on the front. Guess when I added that? After that first crashed one didn't have landing gear. And I believe that's, yeah, that's everything around here at base. As you might have noticed by now, this video is mostly an excuse to clean up crap that I've had laying around. This one is pretty interesting because it includes a prototype in the launch bay here, which, is functional on Action Group 2, and obviously because it doesn't clip with the same vessel, it just went straight through the doors, which I do not like, but it's a little extra riggable piece that you can attach to a craft. So, before I made that passenger plane, I tried to make a very large cargo plane. And as you can see, it became a very large piece of debris just off of the end of the runway. This was the first version of it. It didn't fly too well, and there was no way, if I remember correctly, there was no way to actually get to the cargo, which is obviously not good. And that wasn't the only version of the cargo plane to crash. As you can see, in this case, it broke up over a small range, and I wasn't sure that everyone would make it out. Well, anyhow, I had her jump out just to be safe. Obviously, as you can see, the cockpit did survive. Here you can see the fate of another one of the doomed cargo craft. One thing they did do quite well is survive crashes. They didn't do anything else they were supposed to, unfortunately. Someone also made a shuttle and Boeing 747 shuttle carrier that for some reason was designed to have rocket boosts in it and could also separate the shuttle. And, well, this is what happened to the shuttle. And here's where I ended up putting down the monstrosity that carried that shuttle. Unlike most of the things where I go and turn off all the engines, this one I didn't, because there's a lot of clipped engines. And yes, those are rockets. If you open the cargo bay up, you can see that, indeed, we have a bunch of rockets here and rocket fuel tanks all stuck into each other. Stuck into each other? Yeah, that's a good word. And because this has asymmetric engines, I really want to take off with it again, because I just think that would be a fun thing to do. So I'm actually going to enable SAS, throttle up, and get going. And we'll see how badly the yaw destroys us. I'm actually going to tell this to cut down to, say, 50%. Hopefully that'll be enough. I don't know if this is just damaged. Oh yeah, it's really damaged. Well, that's interesting. Okay, the main wing did touch the ground, I'm guessing. Well, it'd have to in order to be damaged that much. But as you can see, managing to fly quite well despite our really horrible sticking up issue. Looks like roll is definitely an issue. Let's see if I can tab some roll control in there. Well, some trim control. And actually it'd be nice if I had something I could use for trim tab. Let's see if I can remove this from symmetry, turn it off for roll, and then let's deploy it and deploy it the opposite direction. See, I got a theory here. Oh dear. That theory was dependent on me maintaining relatively good control, but I should be able to adjust this to reduce the amount of roll we need to maintain level flight. Oh, yep, that was definitely helping a lot. Let's turn that back on. Yeah, wasn't helping enough on its own, but it was helping some. And as you can see, this thing actually flies pretty well considering the amount of damage we've done to it. Pretty hard yawing to the right to keep it from going too far to the left, though. Let's go ahead and reduce the power on this engine a little bit as well. Try to reduce that a little. Try to reduce the required yaw power. And then I will find one of the clipped engines in here and also reduce its thrust. And oh, there's another one. Let's reduce its thrust as well. Still not enough. It's definitely helping though. So let's get... See, this is what independent throttle control is great for. Let's get one of these and tell it to jump on down on the thrust scale. Is that the same one? Nope, that's the same one. Oh, there we go. And this one, let's get it down to 74. And now you can see the yaw is almost reasonable. In fact, I'm going to just cut this down a bit more. And I'm going to put it back up to 40.5. And now we have pretty substantial yaw control. We do have some roll happening though. And we are currently heading away from the KSC? Which direction are we heading? We're heading towards the KSC, roughly. Over in that direction. So I could go and try and land this. I kind of want to, but the distance that we have to go, traveling at these lower speeds, it's not going to be very entertaining. So I think instead, I will attempt to do... Wow, this thing has very bad roll performance right now with how things are going. Let's go ahead and try and get this. Stop reporting, roll. Okay, deploy, fully deflected. So now, if I open up F12, we should see both of those trying to do opposite effects. Yeah. Okay. Oh, that's all. And yeah, I'm just gonna do straight up a belly up landing, just right here, because why not? Seems like as good a place as any to do it. Turning off the engines might have been actually a bad idea for our controllability, especially with the roll being very, very bad. There we go. Touchdown. Oh, some of it blew up. Not all of it, though. Although, unfortunately, we are pitching up from the explosions. It looks like we're going to do a belly flop here in a moment. And there we go. Surprisingly survivable. Although a lot of that has to do with the damage mod, making it easier to survive things that otherwise would normally kill you. Although this belly is actually not damaged at all. Amazingly, the brunt of the impact was on this adapter, which took about 20% damage. And shockwaves going through the craft don't really damage other parts of the craft, unfortunately. So, yeah. And now, for my final trick, taking off from the desert runway, mainly because I accidentally forgot to switch to the main runway. You can see there's a lot of stuff out here that I need to clean up as well, but that will be for next time. Right now, I've got to show you what exactly I was hiding inside that other KR-71, as I've decided to call them, since they're an off-brand SR-71. I didn't feel comfortable leaving them with that brand name, so to speak. Oh, shit. Oh! Well, depending on how the rest of this very short flight goes, I may still be able to show it to you. Oh, dear. I'm actually trying to flip it over right now, but it's not working. And as you can see, the damage module stuff is really great for making more interesting debris when you crash something. I'm going to go ahead and deploy this, as I figured that would open us up and even flip us over, so that I can hit the second button to slide out the missile launcher. As you might have guessed if you were looking at the staging menu, it's a stock rocket. Whoa! That one fired crooked as shit. Oh. There we go. And as you can see by the way that one spiraled, they do have a slight, whatchamacallit? They do have a, let me aim the camera here, there we go, so you can see a little bit better. They do have a slight spin to them, so they do spin stabilize a little bit. Of course, right now I'm firing them into the ground just in front of me because that flight went about as well as can be expected. And as you can see, it cleanly hides away in the bin of this very bad takeoff, because I accidentally pulled the landing gear in way sooner than I should have. And I tried to correct it. As you can see, they are back out. Well, what's left of them. But, yeah.